This is the Hawaii Housing Finance and Development Corporation regular board of directors meeting on August 10th, 2023. It is now 9 a.m. I will call the meeting to order, and I would like at this time to ask our board secretary, Elsa, to please take a roll.
In attendance today, we have Chair Gary Mackler, Vice Chair Carol Ryman, and Directors Sean Sasaki, Jason Bradshaw, Jay Kimura, Don Mende, and Luis Salazar.
Thank you. So we have established a quorum. Before we move into the agenda, I just want to let those here in attendance and watching remotely that we will be taking public testimony as we work through the agenda. I will take public testimony on each of the agenda items today. Before we do that, I'd like to ask our executive assistant, Del Juan, to just go ahead and lay out the ground rules for public testimony.
Thank you, Chair. Anyone wishing to present oral testimony should indicate so to the chair. Oral testimony will be limited to 3 minutes, subject to the discretion of the chair. Your testimony must be related to an item on the board agenda. Before you begin your testimony, we ask that you identify yourself and spell your name for the record. After 3 minutes, I will call time, after which you will have 15 seconds to conclude your testimony. Keep in mind that this is an opportunity for you to share your thoughts with us. If you ask questions during your testimony, neither the board nor the staff is required to provide an answer. For anyone wishing to submit written testimony, instructions for doing so are on the front page of the agenda under the section titled Public Testimony.
Thank you. Also today, we have several board members who are participating remotely at this meeting. I would like to ask each of you if there is anyone else at your locations that you need to identify for today's meeting. We can start with Jason. Director Bradshaw, is there anyone attending? Oh, sorry, you're breaking up. Let me ask Director Ryman, is there anyone with you in attendance?
Hi, this is Director Ryman. There is no one here in my office. Thank you.
Director Zaria, also, if I could ask the same question.
No, Chair. This is Luis Salaveria, Director. Nobody in the room with me. Thank you. Sorry if my camera seems to be flickering. I don't know if you guys see the same thing that I'm seeing.
Director Kimura, I think you're on mute, but if you could let us know.
No one here is with me. I'm alone.
Thank you.
I apologize, Chair. My connection seemed to be really bad. I'm by myself.
Okay, thank you. Thanks all. I'd like to move on to section 2 of our agenda, the approval of minutes. First with item A, which is the annual meeting of July 13th, 2023. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Any correction? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Annual meeting minutes are approved. Going to item 2B, regular meeting minutes of July 13th, 2023. May I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a second. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Board members? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Before we get into section 3 of our agenda today, I'd like to take one item out of order, and this is section 4, the report of the executive director. And just, you know, and we're doing this in light of the devastation on Maui to the loss of life and property, I wanted to ask our acting executive assistant, Dean Minikami, to give some remarks.
Sure. As we all know, the wildfires on Maui have had a devastating impact, in particular on Lahaina. So this is a situation which is evolving. We are still in the process of determining the extent of impact, especially to homes, and, you know, of course, there have been 36 documented so far. So that's a tragedy. We know that there are hundreds, possibly even thousands of homes that were in some way impacted. So for HHFDC assets, 8 Front Street Apartments, which we own the ground lease to, was destroyed. We also, other assets, affordable housing properties out there include Kaiulu, Okukuya, Ufupohi, Pale Mahaolu, Enos, Lahaina Surf, Weinberg Court, and Ponokwai Villa. That's not a complete list, that's a list that we have right now. We are working with the owners of those properties to determine the status of the properties. As you can imagine, with communications being out, it's hard to get information. But we know that there has been significant damage, and we have been to assist. Just this morning, got an email from DBED forwarding a request from the governor that HHFDC stand up a call-in center to create an inventory of properties available to rent. And so we can connect those landowners and those lessees, those property owners with folks who have been displaced. So right after this board meeting, I'll be meeting with staff to stand up that program. State's also set up a response center at the convention center, which is why Director Tokioka and Deputy Director Dane Wickard couldn't attend. They're both working at that response center, as are other DBED staff. And also, you might recall that one of our budget items was to acquire what's called the former Maui Sun Hotel property. That is now being used as an emergency shelter. So we're still going to move ahead with the acquisition, and that will probably remain a shelter for displaced residents. So that's what I have to report right now, and we're still waiting to hear back on status of the overall loss of homes and how affordable properties were affected.
Thank you, Dean. Thanks for that information. Any questions for Dean at this time?
You don't need anything on the board.
Not right now.
If there is a need for a special meeting for any reason to assist, please keep that open and available.
Sure, thank you.
Are you gonna go or no? Are you gonna do it?
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and move into the items, section 3 of our agenda today, which is discussion and or decision making. And the first item is for information. It's the overview of a discussion on the Hawaii Housing Finance and Development Corporation's financing and development programs, legacy infrastructure activities, housing related programs and activities, and real estate management and compliance activities. We have our chief planner, Chris Woodard, the chosen one for this.
I'll have some help. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair, members of the board. Please allow me to share my screen here. A bit of me volume as well. All right, new computer. We're A little glitch here. Oh, there we go. Apologize for that. Again, this is part two of the overview of major programs and activities that we started on last month's meeting. Today, we're going to talk about our development programs, our legacy infrastructure activities, other programs and activities, and our critical support functions. We'll start with our development programs. This is just a concept plan for the Kahului Civic Center mixed-use complex. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Under our development plans, we have our dwelling unit revolving fund, or DURF program, our DURF equity pilot program, our 201H-38 expedited review program, general excise tax exemptions. We're going to talk about our RFPs and our master plans and infrastructure projects. Our dwelling unit revolving fund program, DURF was established in the 1970s by the legislature. Its allowable uses include acquisition of real property, development of various types of properties. We provide interim and permanent financing for developers. We provide loans for regional infrastructure projects. Currently, DURF has an available balance of approximately $22.5 million. And just this past session, through the budget bill, an additional $100 million infusion was appropriated for DURF for the next 2 fiscal years combined. The legislature established this past session the DURF equity pilot program. This is a 5-year pilot. It allows the uses of up to $10 million of DURF funds to purchase equity in for sale developments. So this is to attempt to assist Hawaii residents earning 80 to 120% of the AMI to help them purchase homes. And the idea is that through our equity investment, we would reduce the home purchase price for buyers, and we'd get repaid with any share of appreciation on our equity interest upon the sale of the unit. We're currently in the process of drafting administrative rules. We actually may be taking those rules to this board next month for your approval. And we expect that we'll contract to purchase equity in the first units beginning in fiscal 2024. HRS section 21H-38, our expedited review program. This is commonly referred to as the 201H program. It allows us to exempt projects from statutes, ordinances, charter provisions, other rules relating to planning, zoning, construction standards for subdivisions, and the like. So it's essentially override county zoning and provide exemptions from certain fees, for example. Provided that the project is for primarily for affordable housing, that the exemptions don't contravene health or safety standards or PUC rates and fees. And under this program, the county legislative body must approve the exemptions. Under our current admin rules, a project has to have at least 50%, actually over 50% of its units as affordable to households earning up to 140% of the area median income. The review process here can take as little as 4 months from application to county council approval. And typically we get 1 to 4 applications annually. I'll note though that the counties can also process these applications upon developer request. general excise tax exemptions, we have the ability to approve and certify for exemption certain affordable housing projects. The exemption is available for both construction costs and revenues derived from affordable rental units. And to qualify, a project needs to meet at least one of the two criteria that will be up on your screen here. You'll see criteria on one below. Criteria on two has two components to it, so a little complicated, but point is, yeah, if you're developing an affordable housing project, you meet certain criteria, you can come to HHFDC and get exemptions from general excise tax. We also, when we have lands available, we have the ability to issue requests for proposals to develop lands for affordable housing purposes. This is a competitive process. And 3 recently issued RFPs include 690 Pocahontas Street. That project is actually just about a block away from our offices here. That's been awarded to High Ridge Costa Development Company. They're planning to develop over 600 units there. The Kahului Civic Center project, that RFP was issued in March. Proposals were received last month, and that will be brought to the board at some point for recommendation for project award. And Northwest Corner parcel, which is the last major developable parcel in the village of Kapolei, that RFP was issued in May, and proposals are due in September. Master plans and infrastructure projects. I mentioned earlier, I had a lot of help on this presentation, and at certain points of time, I'm going to ask my colleagues to jump in. At this point in time, I'd like Randy to jump in and present this slide in the next.
Chair Mackler, good morning. Committee Chair, good morning and hello. I'm Randy Chu, Interim Development Branch Chief. Chris asked me to speak a little bit on the master plan and infrastructure project. First one, Eagle Infrastructure Master Plan. The lack of infrastructure is more and more becoming a gating issue for the development and redevelopment of major housing projects. Such is the case for Eagle area, where 3 major housing projects are being planned. Our Wrigley Civic Center, HPHA's Mayor Right Homes, and Kamehameha School's redevelopment of the Kapalama area. So we prepared a infrastructure master plan to identify what needs infrastructure improvements are necessary to facilitate such the development. The master plan has been completed, and we're in the programmatic environmental impact statement phase. The project area is approximately 555 acres bound by North Vineyard, River Street, Nimitz Highway, and Waikimela Road. Infrastructure includes sewer, water, drainage, roadways, electrical system. The master plan, infrastructure master plan identified the improvements that are needed, and rough ballpark, we're looking at about $1.2 billion. So we're right now discussing with other agencies in the city ways that we can address funding such infrastructure improvements. The Kahului Civic Center project, it's a 5.57 acre project. We're master planning the area for a mixed use to include affordable housing, a Department of General Services offices and Civic Center, and a Maui community bus hub. Like Chris said, previously the proposals were due July 26th. We received the proposals and are currently reviewing those proposals. Tamakana Village, this is in North Kona, 272 acres. And we anticipate over 1,500 dwelling units, 787 of them being affordable units, including a elementary school, parks, commercial spaces, and archaeological preserves. We're working with Stanford Car Development, who has a development agreement for master plan in this area. And it's an ongoing project. Again, infrastructure needs are a grading issue, mainly for this project, the availability of water. Thank you.
Thanks, Randy. Appreciate it. Next, we're going to talk about our legacy infrastructure activities. This is a map of our Waihole Valley lands. So we'll talk about. But first, we'll talk about Village of Kapolei. HHFDC's predecessor agency was the master developer of the Villages of Kapolei, beginning in the late 1980s. This is a 888 acre master plan community in West Oahu with about 4,400 residential units. To expedite development of this community, the legislature passed Act 15 session laws of Hawaii in 1988. That allowed the agency to develop major infrastructure exempt from various zoning and subdivision laws. And unfortunately for the Villages of Kapolei, the city never accepted dedication of the public infrastructure, albeit they had the benefit of substantial real property tax revenues that were derived from the state's infrastructure investments out there. There's hope though. In 2022, HHFDC and the city entered into a memorandum of understanding that will eventually lead to the transfer of our long-term maintenance obligations of the roadways to the city. We do have to rehab everything before the city will take over and maintain these roads. It's expected to cost $95 million, require about a decade to complete. Phase one of this rehab program has been completed and has been presented to the city for transfer of maintenance responsibilities. And until we can dedicate everything to the city, the dwelling unit revolving fund will have to continue to incur these maintenance costs, which are approximately $1 million annually. Waihole Valley subdivision. We talked a lot about this asset in the past year. Acquired in 1977 by a predecessor agency. Additional lands were transferred from DLNR in 1993, and in total, we own almost 600 acres of land within the subdivision itself. That's subdivided into 122 lots, residential, agricultural, commercial. There are lots for infrastructure purposes such as roadways and the water system, open space lots. And then we own almost 300 acres of additional lands located outside the subdivision that kind of buffers to the forest reserve out there. Improvements that our predecessor agency constructed in the 1980s include roads, stream appurtenances, drainage systems, and utilities. One of those utilities was the potable water system, the Waihole water system. As of June of this year, approximately $25 million had been spent making improvements in Waihole Valley and acquiring the lands. Additionally, there's general obligation bond interest charged to the project totaling over $11 million. And the big infrastructure issue here is that the Waihole water system is nearing the end of its useful life. We have commenced upgrades to the system that will keep it operational while planning and design of a new potable water well reservoir and upgrades to the transmission mains are completed and actually constructed. And the draft environmental assessment for this project was published last month. We're in the comment period currently.
Where you go on, Chris? I just want to take some time to acknowledge the work that Randy, Rodney have to do for the legacy infrastructure. That's not something that the board sees all the time, and it's a tremendous amount of work. I mean, they're dealing daily with complaints from residents about potholes, overgrown grass, water line breaks. So it's a daily problems that they have to deal with. And trying to fix these issues, working with the city to design the new roads to their standards. Trying to agree with them, which has been an ongoing process going on for years. To replace the water system on Waihole, which is opposed by some residents. Just had a meeting last night, so it's tremendous amount of work that they have to do. And again, it's not something that the board sees. So the work that they do, that their staff do, it really want to bring it to your attention because it is something that doesn't go recognized many times. You know, I think the analogy is that they're like, if we were a football team, they'd be the linemen. Nobody sees what the linemen do, but it's essential work that they have to do.
Yeah, which was one of the reasons for doing this presentation for the board is to kind of give you a greater, a wider view into the various activities that the staff undertakes. So we're going to talk about our other programs and activities. And this is just an aerial of the UV district that Randy was talking about earlier, which has major infrastructure needs for redevelopment. Chapter 343 environmental review activities. I'm going to ask Dean Watase, our housing planning manager, to jump in and cover this.
Good morning, Chair and
Morning.
members of the board. Yeah, I'm Dean Watasi, I'm the planning manager here. So any housing project that uses state funds or land will need to do an environmental assessment. An environmental assessment can take anywhere from 9 months and up to 2 years or more in some cases. About 5 years ago, HHFDC worked closely with OEQC in developing language to exempt affordable housing projects. Then in 2019, the new exemption language was signed into law. This exemption allows HHFDC and other housing agencies to exempt affordable housing projects from the preparation of an environmental assessment, as long as it meets the 4 criteria. So use of state lands or funds as a sole trigger. If it's located within the state urban district, it has county zoning that allows for housing and not located in a sensitive area. The timeline to process an EA exemption is between roughly 3 to 6 months, which represents a time savings of 6 months or more, or up to a year in some cases. Thank you.
Thanks, Dean. Also, I'll note that this is actually we use this a lot. Dean probably has like 10 projects right now that he's in various stages of reviewing information that developers have submitted to enable us to process the exemption. So it's a very active program, a very useful program for affordable housing developers. For our homeownership program, I'll ask Lorna Kometani, who's our your title. She's a manager here. I can't remember the exact title. Housing sales and
I'm the sales and counseling section chief for in the real estate service.
Sorry.
We don't get to work with this.
Work planning.
Good morning, Chair, members of the board, Florida Pamitani. So the real estate services oversees the homeownership program. It's basically your for sale program built by eligible developers that you was approved to build in leasehold and fee simple. The following are fee simple projects. And the three there, the ongoing fee simple condominium projects is currently in various stages of the for sale process. And it's the real estate services ideal conditions for new housing developments. Because they're at various stages and they're not all happening at the same time. However, there's been times when new developments occur at the same time. So, we're jumping in and getting things done as best as we can. So the Block 803 Waimanu project was completed in 2021. They're an example of a project that was done during other projects, the Kapiolani residents, for example. So there were competing interests from the buyers. This is a studio 1 and 2 bedroom type project with the average sales price of the HHFDC studio units at $335,000 for a 400 square foot unit. The Ililani condominium, which is being built right next door to our office, is in the pre-closing stages. This project will be completed in spring of 2024. So buyers are going through the re-eligibility process right now. And the Kuile Place project just completed the initial phase, the initial offering phase, and will be processing unit selections next weekend for 603 available affordable units. The upcoming new fee simple projects include a self-help project in Waianae. This is where buyers will purchase the land and contribute their sweat equity for a period of 1 year every weekend. They build the units together as a group with their fellow neighbors. And it is a very popular development that is beneficial for the agency to meet that particular target group. The Block C or the Kahuina project happening here in Kaka'ako should start soon. This would be a good project having approximately 861 units, mixed use, rental, for sale, affordable, and market. This project would be an ideal project for the DERF equity program. And then the Kahua Pili project is also in the initial stages of the agreements between the agencies so that they can get started as well. So the home ownership program basically provides eligible buyers with the opportunity to purchase at below market value. As a result, the agency implements a buyback and shared appreciation program. There are certain requirements in which the buyers need to meet under this program to purchase an affordable unit. And as a result, whenever we start a new project, we do get together with the sales, the developer sales and lending team to provide orientation and training to assist them with the sales and marketing of the units. The number of applications typically received for any given project is usually 2 to 3 times the number of available units. So we want to make sure that there's adequate disclosure and that we're supporting the developers' efforts in selling the units. With the allocation of funds last year, we're able to purchase an online application software system, and hopefully that will streamline the process that we use to get buyers approved to purchase units. So the buyback program is a 10-year program. It automatically expires after a 10-year period, and it has certain conditions such as owner occupancy and HHFDC's prior written consent so that we can ensure our interest is protected for that 10-year period. There are currently approximately 748 units under the buyback program, ranging up until 2030. for condominiums as well as single-family homes. Projects built after 2020 to have an additional component to the buyback program, allowing a qualified nonprofit housing agency the right to repurchase the unit if the HHFDC waives their right. If the nonprofit also waives their option, then the owner would be required to sell it to another affordable buyer at the same AMI level that they purchased the unit at. The Shared Appreciation Equity Program is the other program included in the affordable program. It is a monetary program. Like I mentioned before, the ability to purchase a unit at below market price, right? The Shared Appreciation Equity Program is intended to recoup some of the expenses that the agency puts into the project via exemptions and reducing the price, basically. So it's a sharing of the net appreciation in the property with the owner based on a percentage that is established prior to closing. And currently we have 1,700 units in 42 single and multifamily projects across the state. Yeah. It is not a program that expires automatically. It has to be satisfied or paid and released. So the estimated future SAE revenue is about $164 million based on the number of units currently under the program. And as a result of the buyback program, we have the option to repurchase the units. If we do, then we will also resell it as an affordable unit with a new 10-year buyback and SAE as well. It is not customary, or I should say that it's not intended, or HHFDC doesn't necessarily want to repurchase these units. We would prefer that the owners live in the units and be able to sell it at market value once the 10 years expires and the SAE is paid. But from time to time, when we do have the option, most times we will exercise the repurchase. Unless it's absolutely not feasible for us to do so.
You and I have worked on things together like this.
Yes.
Do you want to cover this as well? This is your.
Briefly, yes. So, we do have leasehold units, 540 remaining in leasehold. They were built by the predecessor from 1974 to 1982. And this is also a homeownership program, so there's lease rents to be paid, and they're across the state again. Leases will expire, as early as 2029, and it goes to 2055. In 2022, the Board of Directors approved the new 99-year lease program. We are in the process of getting that established with rules, with the process, and intend to have the community meetings in spring of 2024.
So the two biggest projects under this program are Ulubehi out in Waianae, 400 something homes, and Waimanalo Village, Windward Oahu, that's 140 or so homes. Thank you. Our housing advocacy and information activities. Dean Watasi is going to jump in here again.
Okay, so I'll be covering a couple of ongoing activities. The first is the Affordable Housing Inventory Registry. So right now there's an inventory list of affordable housing projects on our website. We're working on updating the list to include more details about each project. We're also putting this information into our geographic information system, which will be made to the public at some point in the future. We hope to be finished with this effort within the next few months. Second is the update to the Hawaii Housing Planning Study, which is last completed back in 2019. The study will look at the following: identify current housing conditions, present demographic and economic characteristics of Hawaii's households, measure housing needs, update information on housing inventory, summarize rental housing data. And we hope to be finished with this effort in mid-2024. Thank you.
Thanks, Dean. Next, we'll cover our real estate portfolio and compliance activities. As far as our multifamily portfolio goes, we've largely privatized it over the past 8-9 years. So we've sold off 9 rental housing projects since 2013 with almost 1,500 units. I'm happy to report that one of those projects is the Kulia Ikanu'u project in Waianae. We closed on the sale of that project on June 30th. That leaves Naniapuna, which is a 32-unit farm labor housing project located in Pahua. That's under agreement to be sold, and we hope to close by calendar year end. We also manage a ground lease portfolio that includes 40 affordable multifamily rental projects, community facilities, and other properties. Dean unfortunately mentioned one of these earlier. The Front Street Apartments project in Lahaina was destroyed by a fire in recent days, but that's included in our portfolio. We manage 2 office space leases, the master lease space the master lease for the office space of Pobolani. That's about 45,000 square feet of space. And then we sublease the 4th floor here to the Department of Human Services. And our building owner, through an amendment to our master lease that was executed last year, we're like 99% complete on a renovation of the office space upstairs for DHS. We manage the Waihole Valley residential and agricultural ground lease portfolio. That's 91 leases, and then got various short-term use agreements that we manage. Dean also mentioned this project earlier. This is the Hagai International Institute. It was actually developed as a hotel in the late 80s. In the mid 90s, was repurposed as a missionary training facility, currently configured with 175 rooms. The budget bill this past year appropriated $45 million to HHFDC to acquire the property. Due diligence is underway. Closing is anticipated to occur by year end. And the plan here, which may be subject to change given recent events, but the original plan was to enter into a long-term ground lease with the County of Maui upon property acquisition to convert this hotel or former hotel to permanent affordable housing for teachers and other essential workers. And then there's a lot of special purpose space that was part of the original hotel that can be used for various community amenities. One of them that's been identified is use as pre-K classrooms. Among other activities, we monitor compliance with our various state and federal rental financing programs. That compliance monitoring portfolio grows every year. It currently encompasses 173 projects with almost 16,000 units. We have a consultant who helps us monitor that portfolio. And then other activities that fall under this real estate portfolio and compliance category. We certify projects for real property tax exemption for the city and county of Honolulu. We administer the rental assistance program. So I think there are 8 or 9 projects that are still participating in that program, where we review the owner's applications for payment and process them. We also review utility allowance studies and approve them. And we review and approve replacement reserve release request. Last but not least, we'll talk about critical support functions at the agency. This is a major development project you may not have heard of. It was constructed right outside on our lanai here. The development team was comprised of HHFDC staff. I see the executive director is not wearing a hat, kind of construction project. It's probably playing a radio too. But this is part of the annual food drive that the state does for Hawaii Food Bank. We contributed 410 cans of food. And oh, wrong way. Last but not least, the critical support functions at the agency. You know, I can personally say that this is one of the best groups of people that I've ever worked with. These functions include accounting and budgeting, administrative rulemaking, human resources, IT. We have excellent legal counsel provided through the Department of the Attorney General, legislative affairs, public information, public procurement, and get a great group of secretaries and office assistants. That concludes the presentation. Any questions?
Board members, any questions for staff? Yes, please.
Just want to thank you and your staff of everything you guys are doing. It's a tremendous amount of work. I don't know how you guys get it done, but thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks to all the staff. I mean, before this presentation, I just thought you guys just financed affordable housing projects.
Oh, you did. Sure.
Well,
You knew more than that.
but it's clear to see that your portfolio takes you in many, it's multifaceted. It takes you in so many directions. And there's so much responsibility for what is produced. And so again, thank you.
Yeah, we stay busy. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. One full housekeeping. Okay, that's good. Can't see you, but good morning, Director Medeiros. If you can hear me, would you please let us know if there's anyone with you in your at your current location?
No, good morning. I'm by myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to move on to the agenda, going to item 3B. This is to approve a fee simple conveyance to the Department of Hawaiian Homelands of the Ahi Road remnant lot at Moy Road at the Hanapepe Heights house lots, Hanapepe Kauai TMK number 41-8-013-047. Is there a motion?
So move.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second. Thank you. Is there anyone from the public wishing to give testimony on this agenda item? Okay, hearing none. The floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Stan Fujimoto with the development section. HHFDC owns a 6,500 square feet bid and remnant road lot at the intersection of Ahi Road and Moy Road in the Hanapepe Heights house lot subdivision in Hanapepe, Kauai. The remnant road lot is down the street from the 305 unit cliffside at Hanapepe subdivision that was completed by HHFDC's predecessor agency in 1993. The roads at the cliffside at Hanapepe subdivision were dedicated to the county in 2001. DHHL is developing an 82 lot subdivision behind the house lots on Moy Road and would like access over HHFDC's remnant road lot for their proposed project. HHFDC seeks approval to convey the remnant road lot in fee simple to DHHL substantially as described in this for action as follows. The purpose is access purposes. The grantee is DHHL. The consideration is gratis. As is condition, conveyance by quitclaim deed. All costs to be paid by DHHL. Subject to approval as to form of the necessary documents by the Department of Attorney General. I am available for questions.
Board members, any questions for Stan? No, I just thank you for bringing this to us, Stan. I do recall that this lot was reserved for a punch through for expansion west onto the homelands. And it's been a lot of years, but I'm glad to see it moving forward. So thank you. Thanks so much. With that, I will, all in favor of the for action?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Going to item 3C on the agenda, this is to approve a request to conduct a public hearing on the low-income housing tax credit program's 2024 qualified allocation plan. May I have a motion?
So move.
Is there a second? Second. Is there anyone from the public wishing to give testimony on this agenda item? Okay, if not, we'll ask our finance manager to present the.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board. David Oy, Finance Manager. So this request is again to approve the request for a public hearing on the qualified allocation plan. The Low Income Housing Tax Credit Program, or LIHTC, was created by the Tax Reform Act of 1986. The LIHTC program provides federal tax credits to qualified project owners who agree to maintain all or a portion of the project's units for low-income individuals or families. The state of Hawaii also has created a state LIHTC, which is equal to 50% of the federal tax credit allocated to a project. The regulations governing the program are contained in Section 42 of the Internal Revenue Code. Section 42 requires that each state housing agency allocate LIHTC in accordance with a qualified allocation plan, the QAP, and that the QAP sets forth the criteria to evaluate and allocate tax credits to projects which best meet the housing needs of the state and the preferences required by Section 42. Also, the procedure to monitor projects for compliance with the provisions of the LIHTC program. And in accordance with Section 42 of the Internal Revenue Code, the QAP must go through a public hearing process. The proposed 2024 QAP that will be the subject of a future public hearing is attached to this for action as Exhibit A. The purpose of the proposed revisions for 2024 are to better align the QAP and the consolidated application for financing with the goals and the missions of HHFDC. In these revisions, greater emphasis will be placed on the readiness to proceed of a project upon the receipt of an award, government support of the project, and a greater emphasis also placed on cost efficiencies and the reasonableness of development costs. So among the changes that we'll be making, the highlights are as follows on Section C, page 2 of the for action. For policy, the project owner must be established and registered in the state of Hawaii. In addition to the current requirements of the QAP to provide evidence of registration, the applicant is also going to be required to provide a vendor compliance certificate from the State of Hawaii Procurement Office dated within 6 months of the application. Also, there are various aspects of the application that are required to be submitted. And overall, any failure to comply with the various requirements noted in the QAP regarding the use of unauthorized versions of the consolidated application, submission of false information, or other misrepresentations or fraudulent activity associated with the application. Previously, the QAP imposed a penalty of, quote, the next application round or 6 months from the rejection date, whichever is longer. The revised proposed language will be within the next application round following the rejection or 12 months from the rejection date, whichever is longer. Another change that is going to be made is in regards to special housing needs. The amended definition of special housing needs will be aligned with that Department of HUD, Housing Urban Development. And in terms of qualified contracts, the revisions that will be made, staff is requesting to increase the processing fee for qualified contracts to $500, previously $150, and increase the qualified contract fee for monitoring to $500 per unit. In terms of minimum thresholds, the project's rehabilitation useful life, it's just a clarification. Currently, it's stated that it has to extend beyond the LIHTC extended use period. Staff would want to clarify this to specifically state 30 years, which is the initial affordability period plus the extended use period. So this is the same duration of time, it's just clarified. Also, in terms of a project's annual replacement reserve allocation, it's now required to increase at an annual inflation rate of 3% in the proposed budgets, above the minimum $300 per year per unit. Previously, the requirement was just that the reserve allocation was only $300 per year per unit. In terms of project readiness is not a new provision in the QAP. Criteria has already been in place for that. We are going to add to the requirements that the following discretionary approvals also be provided at the time of application with supporting evidence and documentation satisfactory to staff. We're going to require a special management area or amendments be in place, and also add language stating that other approvals may be requested by HHFDC if they are deemed necessary to determine the readiness of the project. Also, for net operating income, project is required to evidence positive NOI throughout the affordability commitment period, as indicated on their consolidated application. Before, the pro forma that we put in the application was only for 50 years, but we wanted to match up with the proposed affordability period. There's various point adjustments proposed in the criteria. In terms of feasibility, which we stated was a priority to be revised, this will be revised to incorporate 3 subcategories totaling 36 points. Previously, it was only 22 points. It will include reasonableness of development costs, the readiness to proceed, and also services and amenities to be provided by the project. The ratio of a developer fee as a percentage of total project costs will be revised to 0 to 3 points from the previous 0 to 7 points. Reason being that most of our projects that apply that are deemed feasible for award do not approach the threshold for the limit of developer fee. So we feel that this is a reasonable criteria already adhered to by our developers. And developer fees do have to be paid because the fees that they receive are what they use to prepare new projects to be ready to meet our criteria to move forward with new awards. So the money cycles through them to, bring projects that are ready, because to be ready under our criteria does require an investment and time. So this is what it cycles through there. Projects receiving rental assistance subsidies for the first time will be 0 to 4 points from the previous 0 to 7 points. State and local government support will be increased from a maximum 7 points from the previous 6. We're going to be increasing the points awarded for projects that are going to be on government leased land, whether it be the state, attached state agencies, federal government, and such. Project location and market demand, the criteria table is going to be expanded to modify the points awarded for proximity to transit stops. This doesn't just apply to Oahu. This will apply to the neighbor island counties as well with adjusted criteria. And developer and property management experience, we're proposing to add criteria to apply negative points to the criteria score if members of the applicant team fail to meet current application requirements or terms and conditions of previous awards. So in other words, if increases in resources, multiple extensions to projects, we just want proposals in the applications that are brought in to be as accurate and vetted as possible before they come to us. Experience matters in this business, not only in terms of building quality, affordable housing, but also having it done timely. So in addition to that, so the overall scoring system will maintain a score total of 120 points as it does now. Because if we just simply add more points to criteria, you're not changing the weighting or changing the emphasis or the priority. But in order to accomplish this, when scoring is increased in one criteria, another criteria score has to be reduced, as I've shown in my previous examples, because otherwise, again, you're failing to effectively accomplish the goals of any of these changes. So, while it may be commented that adding 1 or 2 points to any given criteria may seem insignificant, if you were to review the scoring in previous award rounds that we publish on our website, you can see that the difference in rankings comes down often to 1 or 2 or even fractions of a point when looking at previous scores. Furthermore, the emphasized goals of the corporation are not encompassed in any one criteria, but rather in the QAP as a whole across multiple criteria. A tentative redline version of the current QAP, which is covering 2022 and 2023, is attached. There are some areas where it may be unclear that certain criteria are new, but they're really not. The criteria have been modified in certain areas, but we will present a further summary following the public hearing. The corporation's estimated timeline is shown at the top of page 4 of the for action. Upon approval by the board, staff will proceed to conduct a public hearing for the QAP in September 2023, as required in section 42 of the IRS code, with the intent to bring the final draft of the QAP for board approval in October 2023, and for applications to be ready to be released for the next funding round in December 2023. So to keep on the same schedule as we've been on. So staff is seeking approval from the board to authorize the executive director or his designee to conduct a public hearing on the proposed 2024 QAP, and to authorize the executive director to undertake all action necessary to effectuate the purposes of this for action.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Any questions, board members for David?
I have a question, Chair. Oh, sorry.
Oh. Go ahead, Director.
So I just wanted to touch base on I guess just one thing. I did read Senator Chair Chang's testimony, and I was wondering if, with regard to some of his suggestions, HHFDC wanted to offer any responses, and also will there be an opportunity in the future to make additional changes to the QAP?
Yes, so we are going to have the public hearing for this version of the QAP with the intention of achieving the goals that we stated earlier as the priorities for the agency. I've decided that this QAP is only going to be for 2024. If these changes that we propose and anything that may come out of the public hearing that we incorporate, that the board approves for 2024, if it doesn't move the needle enough in the direction that we feel is beneficial to the state or the agency's goals, we will do another revision next year in order to make further changes and keep improving it, following the same process and same intent, as we move forward. Senator Chang's suggestions, we do consider them and we did look into them. The points he makes are valid, but we feel our criteria changes and the actual outcome of many of the scores from previous applications rounds, including this one, are more in line with what we're proposing. Again, it is a matter of, we want to maintain the goals of the program, but at the same time, the QAP is governed by section 42 and certain federal requirements. And even not just in terms of awards, but in terms of compliance as well. So even after the award and when a project is placed in service, the project has to follow certain rules for, maintaining affordability. It also has to follow rules for the number of units that are in certain affordability categories. Right now, our requirements maintain affordability on LIHTC projects for 45 years. And we're going to continue to improve that with other initiatives. But, you know, his testimony has been received and will be under consideration and will be looked at. And we do have an open channel with the senator that we can utilize if we need to ask further questions.
Okay, thank you.
So I have one question, David. So after you conduct your public hearing, how much in advance do you think you can get all of the comments compiled and submitted to the board prior to the October meeting?
Yes.
It's going to take some time for board members to go through that information, and perhaps it will generate more questions as well.
Yes, so we're gonna try to expedite it as much as possible. I would like to do it within a week or 2 weeks. I'll be working on this as well. You know, my staff is definitely capable, as they've shown, of getting these together, because we are aware of the time it's going to take for the board and the public as well to review any of these changes. So we want to give ample time for that, because applications are going to be released in December. We do have possibly an additional month if we need to push back the approval of the board in order to incorporate that. But with the lead time and with the publishing of the board agenda, the QEP final draft should be available to the public for review as well, for comment. And even this being public, you know, would give some indication of the changes in the direction we're heading. So we hope to get enough feedback from the public, and we welcome any feedback.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot. So we do have a motion to approve. So I will call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, the motion is carries, and we will now move to item 3D on the agenda, which is to approve an extension to resolution number 177, which provides for official intent with respect to the issuance of Hula Main multifamily tax exempt revenue bonds for the Haleo Pi'ikea 2 project located in Kihei, Maui, TMK number 23-9-002 076. Can I have a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there anyone wishing to give testimony on this agenda item? Hearing none, we will turn it over to David again.
Thank you, Chair. Haleo Pi'ikea 2 is a 97 unit project for seniors in Kihei, Maui. The project consists of studios and 1-bedroom units, serving those in the up to 30, 50, and 60% AMI category, and it has an affordability period of 66 years. This project was originally awarded on August 11th, 2022. At that time, Resolution 177 was approved by the board, awarding $23,500,000 in tax exempt HMMF bonds, $1,889,230 in federal LIHTC over 10 years, and state LIHTC over 5 years from the 4% non-volume LIHTC pool. On June 22nd, 2023, the project submitted a request to extend the deadline to issue bonds as stated in Resolution 177. The original resolution stated the deadline to issue bonds was August 11th, 2023. And the project is seeking an extension to February 16th, 2024. The project anticipates receiving its building permits in Q4, closing on its financing in Q1, 2024, and commencing construction immediately thereafter, and anticipates completing in 2025. The project has all its discretionary approvals in place and a residential workforce housing agreement with the County of Maui for an expedited permit review. Final plans have been submitted to the county for review, and again, permits are expected in Q4 of this year. The financing commitments for the project remain in place from the LIHTC investor, lender, and a grant from the County of Maui. Resolution 177, which we're seeking to extend, does not authorize the sale of tax exempt bonds. Once the project has met all its final thresholds for closing and the budget is again deemed feasible, the staff will return to the board to request the final authorization for the sale, issuance and delivery of bonds. Such final issuance is subject to the availability of volume cap and the approval of the Department of Budget and Finance and the governor. Staff has reviewed this request from the developer and requests the board approve to extend the deadline stated in resolution 177 to issue tax exempt HMMF bonds for the Hollywood EKF2 project to February 16, 2024, and to authorize the executive director to undertake all action necessary to effectuate the purposes of this for action. I do have the developer with us at this time to answer any questions, if there are any from the board.
Directors, any questions for staff or the developer? Okay, if not, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Let's move, thank you. Let's move on to item 3E. This is to approve an extension to resolution number 178, which provides for official intent with respect to the issuance of Hula May multifamily tax exempt revenue bonds for the Uahe Bridge project located in Lihue, Kauai, TMK number 43-8-005 002 CPR 0002. Is there a motion? Remove. There a second? Second. So we're doing the seconds today. Is there anyone from the public wishing to give testimony on this agenda item? Hearing none, I'll turn it over to David.
Thank you, Chair. So Oahe Ridge is a 96 unit family project in Lihue, Kauai. Features 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units, serving those in the 30, 40, 50, and up to 60% AMI range with an affordability period of 61 years. The project was originally awarded August 11th, 2022. At that time, the project was awarded through resolution number 178. HMF bonds in the amount of up to $34,800,000, $2,750,000 and annual federal LIHTC over 10 years and state LIHTC over 5 years from the 4% non-volume cap pool. The original deadline to issue HMF bonds for resolution 178 is August 11th, 2023. On June 9th, 2023, the project submitted a request to extend this deadline to issue bonds. The project is requesting a new issuance deadline of February 28th, 2024. The project anticipates receiving its final building permits in Q4 of this year and closing financing shortly thereafter and commencing construction before the end of the year. Anticipated completion is Q1 2025. The project has all its discretionary approvals in place and its development use permit from the County of Kauai. All plans have been submitted to the county for final review. All financing commitments remain in place from the LIHTC investors and from American Savings Bank as the senior lender. And the project has also secured and maintained project-based vouchers for 17 units from the County of Kauai. Resolution 178, however, does not authorize the sale of tax exempt bonds once the project has met all its financial thresholds for closing and deemed feasible. Staff will return to the board for the final authorization for the sale, issuance, and delivery of bonds. This final issuance is also subject to the availability of volume cap and the approval of the Department of Budget and Finance and the governor. Staff has reviewed the request and requests the board approve the extension of the deadline stated in resolution 178 to issue tax exempt bonds for the Oahe Ridge project to February 28th, 2024, and to authorize the executive director to undertake all action necessary to effectuate the purposes of this for action. We also have the developer with us as well here today to answer any questions from the board.
Directors, do you have any questions for David or for the developer? Mr. Dean Sakata is in the back of the room.
Yes.
Okay, if not, I will call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. At this time, it is 10:15. I'd like to take a 10-minute recess before we continue. So we are now in recess.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It also.
We're gonna call this meeting back to order. We're on recess. We could have David, you wanna come back up? Okay. Okay, we are now going to item 3F on the agenda. This is to approve a change in land tenure held by the owner of the Haleo Pika 1 project located in Kihei, Maui, TMK number 23-9-002-076 CPR 0001. Can I have a motion?
So move.
Is there a second? Second. Is there anyone from the public wishing to give testimony on this agenda item? If not, I'll turn it over to Dave.
Thank you, Chair. So this is for Haleo BK 1. This is a 90-unit family project in Kihei, Maui. This has 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units, serving those up to 30, 50, and 60% AMI. And there is 1 dedicated homeless unit in this project. The project was originally awarded on July 8th, 2021. At that time, the project was awarded $28,800,000 in tax exempt HMF bonds, $2,263,499 in federal LIHTC over 10 years, and state LIHTC over 5 years, as well as a $12,735,000 rental housing revolving fund loan. Currently, the project's closing deadline to close financing, just for information, is October 12th, 2023, for the RHRF loan to close and to issue the HMF bonds. The project has received its grading permit and anticipates receiving its final building permit any day now. We're currently on bond calls for this project, and loan closing is expected to take place in September 2023. With the commencement of construction immediately thereafter and completion of the project in 2025. So the project secured a $3.3 million grant from the County of Maui Affordable Housing Fund. Grant was awarded for the purposes of acquiring the real estate necessary for the project. However, the restrictions in the grant prevented the grantee, who was the Hawaii Community Development Board, from being able to convey the land directly to the project. So the development team consulted with their council, staff of Maui County, as well as the Maui County Corporation Council, and determined that a lease structure would not violate any county ordinances or the grant agreement itself. So this new leasehold structure that is being proposed is a change from the original award, which contemplated the project as a fee simple ownership by the partnership. The new ground lease will have the property acquired with the grant by HCDB ground lease to the partnership for a term of 99 years. There will be a capitalized rent repayment of $100,000 for the lease term. And this will be secured by a note from the partnership to HCDB. The Hawaii Community Development Board, as the fee owner, is prevented and prohibited from transferring its fee simple interest in the property per the County of Maui's requirements. Subsequent HHF Affordable Housing Fund grants from the county that have been awarded to PEK as other phases will remain fee simple acquisitions, as those funds in those phases are only being used for construction, not land acquisition. So it doesn't apply to any other phase except for this one that we're contemplating right now. So with the new leasehold structure, the change in financing anticipates a $7 million permanent senior loan. So staff analyzed the revised structure as provided by the developer. The project will maintain a 1.2 debt service ratio with the senior loan, which is actually a slight improvement over the simple structure. The total construction costs remain below $571 per square foot, remains below the average for current project applicants. Staff has reviewed the request and is asking the board to approve amending the land tenure of the award for Haleo PEK 1 to leasehold from fee simple. All other terms and conditions contained in the original award for action remain unchanged, and to authorize the executive director to undertake all tasks necessary to effectuate the purposes of this FRAC. And I have the developer with me to answer your question.
Okay, thank you. Directors, any questions for staff or the developer? Okay, I do have a question, regarding the change to leasehold. So HCDB, would be giving a 99-year ground lease to the partnership.
Correct.
How will that lease be enforced long term?
There's a note there's gonna be a note in place from, signed by HCDB and the partnership, so that'll be in place. There's also the mortgage is also gonna be in place on the leasehold and the fee interest, so any recordable encumbrances will affect both the fee simple interest and the leasehold. So in the event that if the mortgage were ever canceled and the debt either for some reason either foreclosed or the debt or otherwise not voluntarily terminated, the encumbrance is still going to appear on the fee simple interest as well. And the lessor HCDB will have to acknowledge all those documents in the recordables. Yeah.
As well as the declaration.
As well as, yes, I apologize, yes, as well as the
So the
declarations. Yes. So all the recorded declarations will be signed by the
Okay.
lessor and lessee.
Yeah, because I just have concern about the long-term enforceability, the institutional knowledge that
Mhm.
gets lost over time, and
Yes,
making sure that the safeguards are there.
yes. So we work closely with the Deputy Attorney General on this as well as the Developers Council. So that's the protection that we have in place to maintain the affordability, regardless of what would happen to the financing and the leasehold structure. It'll remain in place on the land as well.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you. Going on to item 3G of the agenda, this is to approve resolution number 189, authorizing the issuance of Hula May multifamily tax exempt revenue bonds for the Parkway Village at Kapolei, Lot 6, project located in Kapolei, Oahu, TMK number 19-1-1-0-018. Can I have a motion? Second? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, sorry. Is there anyone in the public wanting to give testimony on this agenda item? Okay, hearing none, turn it back over to David. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Parkway Village at Kapolei Lot 6 is a 236 unit project. 4 families in Kapolei, Oahu, features studios, 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedroom units with an affordability period of 51 years on land leased from the city and county of Honolulu. This project was awarded on July 14th, 2022. At that time, the project was awarded $58,239,230 in tax exempt HMMF bonds, $5,728,503 in federal LIHTC over 10 years and state LIHTC over 5 years, and a rental housing revolving fund loan of $22,100,000. The preliminary approval to issue bonds was received from the governor on December 27th, 2022. This project is currently on its closing calls and is fully permitted. The anticipating financial closing is this month, August, and commencement of construction shortly thereafter. The proposed resolution for approval, resolution 189, authorizes the issuance, sale, and delivery of HMMF bonds in a principal amount not to exceed $58,239,230. The final bond issuance is subject to the availability of bond cap and approval by the Department of Budget and Finance and the governor. Staff has reviewed the resolution and the request and is requesting that the board approve resolution 189, authorizing a tax exempt bond issuance of up to $58,239,230 from the HMMF bond program, subject to the conditions and provisions in Exhibit C of the 4 action, and authorize the executive director to undertake all tasks necessary to effectuate the purposes of this 4 action. We have the development team with us today as well to answer any questions from the board.
Directors, any questions for staff or the developer? If not, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you. Going to the next agenda item, which is 3I. This is to approve an award of federal and state low-income housing tax credit. Oh, did I miss one? I'm sorry, I jumped. Let's go to 3H on the agenda. Approve resolution number 190, authorizing the issuance of Hula May multifamily tax exempt revenue bonds for the Parkway Village at Kapolei, Lot 7, project located in Kapolei, Oahu, TMK number 19-1-160-018. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Second. Okay, is there anyone in the public wishing to give testimony on this agenda item? If not, David?
Thank you, Chair. So this is Parkway Village at Kapolei, Lot 7, separate project from Lot 6, but will be closing simultaneously with Lot 6. This is a 169 unit project for families in Kapolei, Oahu, featuring studios, 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedroom units, serving those in the up to 30 or 60% AMI category. This project also was originally awarded on July 14th, 2022. At that time, the project was awarded as part of Resolution 170, $39,865,882 in tax exempt HMF bonds, $3,877,002 in federal LIHTC over 10 years, and state LIHTC over 5 years, and a rental housing revolving fund loan of $14,100,000. The preliminary approval to issue bonds for this project was received from the governor on December 27th, 2022. Again, this project is on bond closing calls right now, fully permitted, and anticipates its financial closing at the end of August and commencing construction immediately thereafter. The contemplated resolution being brought before the board, Resolution 190, authorizes the issuance, sale, and delivery of HMF bonds in a principal amount not to exceed $39,865,882. This final bond issuance is subject to the availability of volume cap and approval by the Department of Budget and Finance and the governor. Staff has reviewed the resolution and the request board's approval of Resolution 190, which authorizes the tax exempt bond issuance of up to $39,865,882 from the HMF bond program, subject to the conditions and provisions in Exhibit C of the 4 action, and to authorize the executive director to undertake all tasks necessary to effectuate the purposes of this 4 action. And again, I have the development team here if there are any questions from the board.
Board members, any questions? If not, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you. Now we'll go on to item 3I of the agenda. This is to approve an award of federal and state low-income housing tax credits from the state's 2023 volume cap for the Kai Olino Phase 2 project located in LA, Kauai, TMK number 42-1-010-062. Is there a motion? Second. Second. Anyone in the public wishing to give testimony on this agenda item? No. Okay, we'll turn it back over to staff to present.
Thank you, Chair. So Kailino Phase 2, this is an additional award from the 2023 funding round from the state's 9% volume cap license awards. So staff followed the criteria and guidelines established by the 2023 QAP to evaluate all applications. Again, the QAP utilizes a point system to facilitate project ranking based on the established evaluation criteria. However, as stated in the QAP, while the point system is critical component for determining ranking of projects, it is not the sole or final determinant of LIHTC awards. HHFDC may consider other factors that it may deem in the best interest of affordable housing for the state of Hawaii, including but not limited to factors such as the development team experience and performance, financial condition and performance, related developments, development timing, tenant health and safety, at-risk conversions, housing inventory, affordable housing policies at the state and county levels, development and operating budgets, and market conditions. All 9 applicants for 9% credits met the minimum threshold for the QAP, and their scores are shown in the project alphabetical order on page 3 of this 4-action. So based on the foregoing, the staff recommends a 9% LIHTC award, is going to be recommending a 9% LIHTC award for Paulino Phase 2, located in LA, Hawaii. This project is a 27-unit project for families and homeless tenants with 2 and 3 bedroom units serving those up to 30, 60, and 100% AMI with an affordability period of 61 years. The total development cost for the project is shown at $21,534,435. The cost per unit based on vertical construction is $564,044 per unit. The cost per square foot is $411.98, which is below the 9% applicant average. In addition to the requested LIHTC equity financing will consist of senior debt, a requested $2,250,000 RHRF loan to be detailed in a subsequent 4-action. There will be subordinate debt from the County of Kauai, deferred developer fees. The project has secured letters of intent from CREA, its LIHTC investor, and a letter of interest from Bank of Hawaii as the potential senior lender. The market study for the project indicates healthy demand for the project, and underwriting by the staff has deemed the project as feasible. In terms of readiness for the project, phase 1 of Kaiolino is already under construction with an estimated completion date of Q1 2024. This phase 2, has all discretionary approvals in place and does not require a 201H. Phase 2 has secured its building permits and executed its construction contracts for the required improvements. Upon receipt of the LIHTC award, the project anticipates completion in August of 2024. Sorry. Staff has reviewed the project and recommends that the board approve an award and allocation of $1,400,000 in federal 9% LIHTC over 10 years, state LIHTC over 5 years. Total fees paid to the developer for the project, including but not limited to overhead, developer fee, consultant fees, and project management fees, will not exceed $1,217,000. And to authorize the executive director to undertake all tasks necessary to effectuate the purposes of this 4-action. We have the developer here today from the AHE Group to present their project to the board.
Would you please state your name and who you represent?
I will, thank you. Good morning, Chair Mackler, members of the board, executive director, and staff. I am Makani Maeva. I am the president of the AHE Group, and I think I'm supposed to spell my name. Makani, Maev as in Victor A. So thank you very much for the opportunity to walk you through Kaiolino Phase 2. This project, AHE Group, first I'll tell you. We founded AHE Group in 2014, and we now have 20 properties, nearly 2,000 units, and we have recently determined that we serve about 4,500 people here in Hawaii. We are located in Kailua here on Oahu and operate on 3 islands. This property is the second phase. Kyolino Phase 1 is at the top of the screen, and Phase 2 is the little sort of corner piece. There are two buildings currently under construction in Phase 1, and Phase 2 will just be a continuation. Same contractor, same investor, same lender. The property, as some of you may know, is actually incredibly beautiful. It's overlooking LA and the boat harbor. It was originally meant to be market rate condominiums. We purchased the land in 2020, so we currently own it. It is an exceptional location. It is within a good location, both headed towards the west side, and then also conveniently located if you're going towards Toku. This building is for families, 61 years of affordability. The total site is 3.8 acres. Though this component will be constructed on about 1 acre. The project cost there at $21.5 million. Again, we will start construction immediately following this. We are obviously have current appraisal, we have current construction contracts, and we are ready to go. 21 2-bedrooms and 6 3-bedroom units. We maintained the original market rate product designs, and so these are not only in an exceptional location, the product type is really exceptional and will be a really good asset for larger families within the area. 5%, 5 units at 30%, 20 units at 60%, and 2 units, which are outside, and those are at 100% of the AMI. We also have 2 units at a site for homeless. Again, sort of a difficult to see, but Phase 2 is over towards the left. The Phase 2 looks out at the water as well, but has also commanding views of the mountains behind the property. North of the project is, or mouth of the project is a single family home development. Single family homes developed as affordable homes and sold in about 2010 to 2012 as a part of a master plan design of this area. We have some resources from the County of Hawaii, a loan from their development fund. Again, permits issued, construction can begin immediately. Homeless units reserved. We are also adjacent, this is a good point, to commercial industrial uses and bus stops nearby. The property will be LEED certified. This right here is active construction photographs, which we all love. These are the foundations, and as you can see, in the middle are actually framing that is ongoing. As of now, Building B has reached the 3rd floor of framing, and we'll be starting on Building A for Phase 1. So we are, with the exception of some, unusual rains in the early part of this year, we are really moving along quickly on this. And so it's an opportunity for just continuity here with Phase 2. Again, we're infill development of a vacant parcel that's been vacant for 10 or 12 years, new construction units, a component of housing for the homeless, and then also a range of affordability, as well as, energy efficiency and LEED certification for this property. A little better elevation, and you can see at the bottom or on the right-hand side of the photograph are the Phase 1 buildings, and then the longer sort of straight building on the upper left of the photograph is really what we're talking about here, which is Phase 2 for Kyolino. The single family homes are depicted in the rear of this rendering. It doesn't want to move anymore. Ta-da! Thank you. That's really, there might be one more, but any questions, I'm happy to answer them about the project. Yeah, I think there's not a
end. Pictures of my kids or something. Usually, that's how we end these things.
That's a pretty good ending. Why don't we,
Okay, all right.
ask the
Any
directors
questions?
if they have questions for staff or for the developer? Anyone? Well, I do have one question, and
Yes.
this pertains to lease up. of
Yes.
units. Will you be using, given its location, the desirability of what amounts to oceanfront affordable rental units, will you be utilizing any preference for your lease up of these units?
We will be conducting a lottery. We typically, I think this might be where I have to ask Joelle, but do we have a Kauai resident preference? I don't think that was part of that.
Because I know in a previous project on Kauai, an employee preference was used very successfully. Employees within the certain TM tax map key district of the project itself, and it basically resulted in like 99% lease up of Kauai residents.
Right. We don't have any specific set aside. That is not to say that the county of Kauai might not come to us and ask us. They do have some resources in this property. We will conduct a lottery, and we have before really tried to focus on Kauai residents in development of these projects. There is sufficient demand to really fill up all of these affordable housing projects with Kauai residents first. So,
Well, if you can use a preference,
yes, we
I
will.
would encourage you to do so.
Okay.
You'll have a lot of people wanting this.
I do know that. Yes.
It's such a beautiful property, man.
It's-
Oh my God.
It's exceptional. We will have a blessing and invite everyone. Maybe that will be when the HHFDC board takes its show on the road to the neighbor islands. Yeah.
Used to.
We did one
We used,
time.
yeah, we used to do this. We used
Years
to
ago.
go to everyone came to our Big Island projects, and we used to sort of just pick one and just to show really what you guys are accomplishing. So thank you very much.
Hey, thank you for the
Thank you.
presentation. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. We're going on to item 3K of the agenda. This is to approve resolution number 191, which provides for official intent with respect to the issuance of Hula Main multifamily tax exempt revenue bonds. And 2, reservation of low-income housing tax credits for the Palolo Homes acquisition.
Wait, we are, yeah.
Did I skip again? I apologize. Let me erase that and back up to item 3J, which is to approve a rental housing revolving fund project award for the Kai Olino Phase 2 project located in Eliele, Kauai, TMK number 42-1-010-062. Is there a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Anyone in the public wishing to give testimony on this agenda item? If not, we'll turn it over to David.
Thank you, Chair. Excuse me, this is again for Carlino Phase 2. This is the subsequent RHRF award for the project. So included in the application for LIHTC financing and HMF, LIHTC financing, excuse me, that was submitted on February 17th, 2023. The applicant submitted a request for a $2,250,000 rental housing revolving fund loan. Excuse me. So the project was among the 27 other projects published on May 11th, 2023 on the RHRF final approved project list for the 2023 funding round. Again, the project is fully permitted and ready to move towards closing. Staff has evaluated the application and will recommend the following loan terms for the project. A $2,250,000 rental housing revolving fund loan with 0% interest for the first 2 years, 0.25% interest after year 2, an origination fee of 0.5% of the loan amount to be paid at financial closing, and a total loan term of 55 years. There will be no payments due in years 1 and 2. After year two, the project will pay 55% of its available cash flow after the payment of expenses, senior debt service, and other recognized expenses. Also, there will be, project's loan to value ratio will not exceed 100% of the RHRF loan and other debt senior to the RHRF loan. There will be no disbursement of developer fee until the satisfactory completion of the project. And the RHRF award is subject to the availability of RHRF funds. Staff has reviewed the application and request that the HHFDC board approve the following. An RHRF project loan award of $2,250,000 to Olali Partners LP for the benefit of the Cayolino Phase 2 project. With the terms and conditions prescribed in section 3G of this for action and the RHRF preliminary commitment letter, which is attached as Exhibit C, and subject to the following terms. RHRF funds are subject to the authorization and approval by the governor for the proposed project and the release of RHRF program funds. Execution of all documentation satisfactory to HHFDC outlining the terms and conditions of the project award. Completion of all documentation necessary required to secure the release of RHRF funds. Certification of the applicant to comply and with all the applicable statutory and program requirements, including but not limited to chapters 343, 103D, and 104, and section 103 and chapter 10, section 103.50 of Hawaii revised statutes as they may relate to the use of state funds. Total fees paid to the developer for the project, including but not limited to developer overhead, developer fees, consultant fees, and project management fees shall not exceed the amounts indicated in the applicant's consolidated application and in this for action, and again, subject to the availability of RHRF funds. And also requesting the authorization for the executive director to undertake all tasks necessary to effectuate the purposes of this for action.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for him? If not, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. You okay there?
You okay?
Sorry. Okay, let's go to item 3K of the agenda. This is to approve resolution number 191, which provides for official intent with respect to the issuance of Hula May multifamily tax exempt revenue bonds, and 2, reservation of low-income housing tax credits for the Palolo Homes Acquisition and Rehabilitation Project located in Honolulu, Oahu, TMK numbers 13-4-007-016, 13-4-007-018, and 13-4-008-002. Is there a motion?
Hello.
For a second.
Second,
Thank you, Carol. Is there anyone in the public wishing to give testimony on this agenda item? Hearing none, turn it back over to staff.
Thank you, Chair. So this is for 4% LIHTC award for the Palolo Homes Acquisition and Rehabilitation Project. This is a 306 unit project for families in Honolulu on Oahu. So the project features 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 bedroom units, serving those up to 30, 50, and 60% AMI. The affordability period proposed is 61 years. This is a leasehold property. The fee interest is owned by the state of Hawaii. On February 17th, 2023, the applicant submitted an application as part of the 2023 funding round, requesting the following: $31,500,000 in tax exempt HMMF bonds, $2,790,000 in federal LIHTC over 10 years and state LIHTC over 5 years. And they also requested a $14,965,000 rental housing revolving fund loan that will be presented in a subsequent for action. In addition to the requested financing for the project, they will also utilize Project sponsor equity, additional subordinate debt, which will be subordinate to the RHRF loan. The project would anticipate receiving its building permits in Q4 of this year, 2023, targeting its financial closing for early next year, 2024, hopefully in Q1. The total development cost for the project came out to $61.8 million. The cost per unit based on vertical construction is for the rehabilitation is $115,719, coming out to about $125 per square foot for the rehab. The costs also include preparation and installation of solar water heaters for each unit in the project. And again, target completion for the rehab would be early 2026. So the recommended inducement resolution for bond issuance is a non-binding resolution stating that it is only HHFDC's intent to possibly award or possibly issue tax-exempt revenue bonds for the project. The approval of this resolution by the board is viewed as an official action for the purposes of federal guidelines governing project expenditures. The approval of the resolution does not authorize the sale of tax-exempt bonds and neither commits nor obligates HHFDC to issue bonds for this project. Should the project proceed to closing and remain feasible after further evaluation, staff will return to the board for approval of the final issuance, sale, and delivery of the bonds. The final bond issuance is subject to the approval of the Department of Budget and Finance and the availability of bond cap. The submitted market study for this project indicates healthy demand for units in this area. Applicants for the project will continue to be processed by the Hawaii Public Housing Authority through its Section 8 project-based voucher program, which continues to see a significant demand outpacing availability. The project has been reviewed and deemed feasible by staff. It's to be made clear to the board that there will be no displacement of residents during this planned rehabilitation. All the work by the developer will be limited to daytime hours so as to avoid the displacement of any residents. For readiness, the project has received its exemption from HRS 343, so the EA exemption has been received as of April 2022. The construction drawings are complete and are going out for bid, and the project anticipates awarding a construction contract by October 2023. Building permits are being processed by a third-party expediter and expected to be received before the end of the year this year. The staff has reviewed the application and recommends that the board of directors approve the resolution 191 attached as Exhibit C to the 4 action, which provides for official intent with respect to the issuance of revenue bonds up to $31,500,000 for the Palolo Homes acquisition and rehabilitation projects, subject to the terms, provisions, and conditions detailed in Exhibits D and F. Reserve up to $2,790,000 in annual federal LIHTC over 10 years and state LIHTC over 5 years from the non-volume 4% pool, and to authorize the interim director to undertake all tasks necessary to effectuate the purposes of this for action. Our developer from Mutual Housing is joining us remotely to do a presentation of the project. David, are you there? I believe we have David.
Oh, I think, yeah, I'm on now. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, I got you.
Aloha. Thank you, David. Aloha, Chair Mackler and board members. I apologize for not being there in person today, but I picked up a cold over the weekend, conjunctivitis, and finance staff wisely advised me to stay away. So I apologize for that. I thank you for the opportunity to share about our organization and the Palolo Homes project. Next, first slide, Ken. Mutual Housing is a local nonprofit that owns, develops, and manages affordable rental housing focused on low-income families. We currently own 5 large complexes on Oahu and Kauai, totaling nearly 1,000 units and serving over 3,000 individuals. In addition to providing safe and quality shelter, we integrate resident services programs and other activities and gatherings to encourage and build strong communities. Next slide. Mutual Housing has been privileged to serve the Palolo Homes community for over 20 years since we acquired and privatized the project from the state of Hawaii. It was the state's first privatization of public housing, and at the time, it was also the state's largest state-owned public housing project with 63 buildings and 306 units. It has been over 2 decades since we rehabbed the project, and the property is reaching its 70th year of operation. When first built, Palolo Homes served as home for returning World War II veterans and their families. And over the years, it's also provided housing for some of Oahu's lowest income families. And at this time, 96.5% of our families earn less than 50% of median income, and almost half, I think, earn less than 30% of median income. The success of the Palolo Homes project was recognized when former HUD Secretary Sean Donovan visited the property and praised the project as a model for the successful privatization of public housing for the nation. Next slide, please. Here's some additional information to supplement David's 4-action report. The transaction for the Palolo Homes project involves the existing partnership selling its leasehold interest to the Palolo Homes 2 Limited Partnership based on an appraised value of $13.38 million. The new partnership has applied for tax-exempt bonds, low-income housing tax credits, and an RHRF loan to finance the acquisition and renovations. We anticipate the rehabilitation costs will be at about $35 million. Purchase proceeds would retire existing debt, which includes about $5.5 million of an existing RHRF loan, and the remaining acquisition proceeds will be lent as seller financing for renovations. The project effectively replenishes the RHF fund with $5.5 million to offset our borrowing of about $15 million on the new acquisition rehab. Next slide, please. A critical partner in this project is the Hawaii Public Housing Authority, who, as David mentioned earlier, is a fee owner. HPHA has agreed to amend our existing project-based Section 8 contract with a 15-year extension and to allow residents on the HAP program to receive subsidies up to payment standards, or effectively market rents. This will result in a substantial increase in rental revenue to fund operations and allow us to take on new debt to fund the $35 million of renovations. In addition, HPHA has also agreed to a 35-year lease extension, allowing us to extend our affordability out to the year 2092. Next slide, please. Here's just a few to reiterate some upcoming milestones that we anticipate hitting. Is currently this month we're going out to bid for the construction, and we anticipate awarding the construction contract in October of this year. Our permit plans are under review with DPP, and we've already completed or are close to completing third-party review. Because Palolo Homes is a rehab project, much of our work is not requiring new building permits. The main item under DPP review is our new installation of solar water heating systems for each unit. And again, we expect to secure our permits by the end of this year under work we're doing with Group 70 or G70. And finally, we expect a financial closing in at the end of March 2024, April, and start construction at that time. The final piece I just wanted to share with you is about our organization and our integration of resident services in our operations. Our resident services program at Palolo Homes over the past 20 years have been extensive and diverse. Some of these programs include after-school tutoring, food bank distributions, health screenings, on-site preschool, STEM programs, household budgetary classes, and arts and enrichment programs. Next slide, please. Our ability to execute these programs is predicated on an amazing group of partners in the community that have provided us with caring and steadfast support. And just here are some examples. One program of extreme note is Palolo Pipeline Program, which is a collaboration of the University of Hawaii, Kapi'olani Community College, Chaminade University, Palolo Elementary, and Jarrett Middle School. All these educational organizations work collaboratively together to figure out how to support kids at preschool levels, elementary, up to high school. And one of the programs that we benefited throughout the years is an after-school program where UH students and from the other colleges would earn service learning credits in exchange for tutoring and mentoring our students at Palolo Homes. And it allowed students both at the university level and at Palolo to be exposed to people they might not normally meet in their communities, and just a very enriching program. The CAI program, is an amazing program with Iolani School, where Iolani teachers and administration have taken under their wings B level, C level, and D level grade students that showed promise in the community. The school provided summer school programs at no cost at Iolani schools to avoid some of the summer slide that happens during the school break, and throughout the years does mentorship, and they've had a successful, incredible success with 90% of the participants graduating from high school and over 80%, 88% going on to college. The state Hawaii public health nurses, they provide monthly health screening classes, education, classes on diet and exercise. Palolo is one of the largest food bank distributions in the state of Hawaii. So not only serving our Palolo Homes community, but the broader valley. The Hawaii Homeownership Center during the pandemic partnered with Aloha United Way and us. And before there were any rent assistance programs available for our residents, we were able to do a $800 a month rent assistance program, pulling our resources in the first months of the pandemic. And finally, several local churches like Kaimaki Christian Church and Honolulu Bible Church, they regularly provide food distributions to the community and maybe gently used household goods. During the pandemic, the Honolulu Bible Church weekly did COVID testing and education, and even coordinated on-site vaccinations for our residents. And so we're really fortunate to have these services, and we've kind of looked at our communities, as I think Chairman Macklin knows, and also on Kauai, to use our affordable housing communities as a platform in order to execute resident services. And so the last item I want to share is, I think, just we believe some of the results that have come of these collaborations. And what's shown here are test scores from the DOE of the Palolo Elementary students, which predominantly are made up of Palolo Homes students. As you can see in the far left, in 2002 is when we took over the community. Math and reading score proficiencies were like at the single digits. It's just amazing. But you can see gradually over time during our tenure at Palolo Homes, the test scores went up dramatically. And we stopped at 2013 because the testing systems changed, but you can see they started to reach in the 80% proficiency rates in the 2010s. And one of the major inflection points is around 2008 when we opened our Ohana Learning Center for the community, which helped to bring a lot of the programs in. So we're really grateful for the support of HHFDC and the state and others to support the Palolo Homes community. And we feel that hopefully we can continue to do that for the next 70 years with your support. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, David. Any questions, directors? For staff or the developer? Okay, then call for the question. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all for that. Let's go on to item 3L. Which is to approve a rental housing revolving fund project award for the Palolo Homes acquisition and rehabilitation project located in Honolulu, Oahu. TMK number is 1-3-4-007-016, 1-3-4-007-018, and 1-3-4-008-002. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Anyone from the public wishing to give testimony on this agenda item? If not, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to David.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry. This is the corresponding RHRF loan for the Palolo Homes acquisition rehab project that was just presented. So in addition to their LIHTC and HMF bond financing requests submitted on February 17th, 2023, the applicant has requested a $14,965,000 rental housing revolving fund loan. This project was another among the 27 projects that appeared on the RHRF final approved project list for the 2023 funding round. Staff has reviewed the request and will be recommending the following terms for the project. RHRF loan in the amount of $14,965,000. An interest rate of 0.0% for years 1 and 2. Interest rate of 0.5% after year 2. 0.5% origination fee based on the total loan amount to be paid at closing. And a total loan term of 27 years. There'll be no payments due in years 1 and 2. And after year 2, the project will pay 75% of available cash flow after the payment of expenses, senior debt, service, and other recognized expenses. The project's loan to value ratio shall not exceed 100% of the RHRF loan and no other senior debt. No disbursement of the developer fee will be made until satisfactory completion of the project. And the RHRF award is subject to the availability of funds. Staff has reviewed the request and recommends that the Board of Directors approve the following: an RHRF project award loan of $14,965,000 to Palolo Homes 2 Limited Partnership for the benefit of the Palolo Homes Acquisition and Rehabilitation Project, with all the terms and conditions prescribed in Section 3G of the foraction, and the RHRF preliminary commitment letter attached as Exhibit C. Also subject to the following: the authorization and approval of the governor for the proposed project and the release of RHRF program funds. The execution of all documentation necessary, satisfactory to the HHFDC outlining the terms and conditions of the project award. Completion of all documentation necessary and required to secure the release of RHRF funds. Certification of the applicant to comply with all statutory program requirements, including but not limited to chapters 343, 103D, and 104, 103-50 of Hawaii revised statutes as they may relate to the use of state funds. The total fees paid to the developer for the project, including but not limited to developer overhead, developer fees, consultant fees, project management fees, shall not exceed the amounts indicated in the applicant's consolidated application and in this for action. And again, subject to the availability of RHRF program funds. And also requesting that the board authorize the executive director to undertake all tasks necessary to effectuate the purposes of this for action.
Directors, any questions for staff? Okay, if not, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? If not, motion carries. Thank you, Duke. Going to item 3M on today's agenda. This is to approve an extension to resolution number 163, which provides for official intent with respect to the issuance of Hula May multifamily tax exempt revenue bonds for the Hawaii Public Housing Authority School Street redevelopment phase 1A project located in Honolulu, Oahu, TMK number 1-6-009-003. Is there a motion? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Anyone wishing to give testimony on this agenda item? Okay, I see a hand up, Mr. Park, if you go ahead and provide your testimony.
Thank you, Chair Mackler, members of the board. My name is Ben Park, the Chief Planner with the Hawaii Public Housing Authority. On behalf of Executive Director Wansafi, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, we're dealing with several emergency situations in Maui with a couple of our public housing properties in Lahaina. But we just wanted to come here and show our support for this agenda item and the next one coming up. And we just hope that you humbly approve these for action items. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wanting to give testimony? If not, at this time, I'll turn it over to David.
Thank you, Chair. So the HPHA School Street redevelopment phase 1A project located in Honolulu, Oahu is a 250 unit project for the elderly. Consists of studios, 1 and 2 bedroom units, serving those up to 30, 50, and 60% AMI. The project has an affordability commitment period of 55 years and is on leasehold property owned by the Hawaii Public Housing Authority. The project was originally awarded on October 14th, 2021. At that time, the project was awarded $71,500,000 in tax exempt HMF bonds as resolution number 163. Also awarded $5,257,493 in federal LIHTC over 10 years and state LIHTC over 5 years from the 4% non-volume cap pool. On February 2nd, 2022, the governor provided preliminary approval for the intent to issue HMF bonds. The original expiration date of resolution 163 was October 31st, 2022. On September 8th, 2022, the HHFDC Board of Directors approved an extension to the deadline to issue HMF bonds for resolution 163 to August 31st, 2023. On June 14th, 2023, School Street RH Partners Phase 1 LP submitted a request to extend the deadline to issue HMF bonds to May 5th, 2024. This project also has received a legislative appropriation for a rental housing revolving fund that staff will request an extension for in a subsequent for action. As of this time, the awardee is finalizing the loan terms of the ground lease for the site. The lease is pending final approval and recording of the project site subdivision. The project has been working with DPP on its permits and is intending to close the project under a superstructure permit. As of last update, the construction design plans were submitted on March 17th, 2023. And as mentioned, the project is also working with DPP on the final plat plan for subdivision approval, which is the final threshold for effectuating the site lease. An update that staff has received from DPP provided evidence that the project is progressing. Wastewater branch approval is substantially complete. Subdivision approval, of course, requires approval by the Land Use Permits Division and Board of Water Supply. The civil engineering branch has outstanding comments to the project as of May 3rd. And the traffic review branch is reviewing changes related to the comments provided by the civil engineering team. The awardee is continuing to work with Bank of Hawaii for financing, who has closed on superstructure permits on past projects. And the awardee has also secured preliminary commitment letters from Wells Fargo Community Lending and US Bank Corp for the syndication of its federal and state LIHTC. In its award letters executed by the awardee, there is a requirement for projects to provide quarterly status reports that are requested regularly by staff, and staff will follow up with the status on various items related to the project, including a detailed timeline for the ground lease approval and recordation, an updated construction budget, an updated construction timeline and project schedule, continued updates, status of building permits and departmental reviews. We are requesting contact information for county and state departments with pending approvals, so that staff can assist where we may. And also wanting to be detailed on the date of the last status update on the above items. Resolution number 163 that we would like to extend does not authorize the sale of tax exempt bonds. Once the project has met all its final thresholds for closing and the final budget is deemed feasible, staff will return to the board to request the authorization for the final sale, issuance, and delivery of bonds. The final issuance, again, is subject to the availability of volume cap and the approval of the Department of Budget and Finance and the governor. Staff has reviewed the request and requests that the board approve the following: to extend the deadline stated in Resolution 163 to issue tax exempt HMF bonds for the HPHA School Street redevelopment Phase 1A project to May 5th, 2024. This deadline will coincide with the deadline from the Honolulu City Council for the 201H project exemptions that it was awarded. Subject to still all the terms and conditions set forth in the original award for action of October 14th, 2021. We'd also request the approval to require the project to return with a formal update on the progress of the project at the December 14th, 2023 HHFDC Board of Directors meeting, and to authorize the executive director to undertake all action necessary to effectuate the purposes of this for action. We do have representatives from HPHA and from RHF, its development partner, with us today virtually to answer any questions from the board.
Thank you, David. Directors, do you have any questions for staff or for the developer? Okay, well, I'll ask a few, and these are probably mostly directed to the developer. It's mentioned in the for action that HHFDC's last quarterly update received from the developer was at the end of Q4 2022. I wanted to ask why there has not been any subsequent quarterly reports to update HHFD staff on this project.
Yeah, hi, good morning. Bob Ford with Retirement Housing Foundation. Thank you, Chair Mackler and members of the HHFDC board, as well as HHFDC staff that have been very helpful in this project. We actually did submit a updated report just recently. So maybe between the staff report and now that report was received, but we did send in an update, I think just a week or two ago.
Okay, maybe then if you have reference to that report, Andy, I would like to go through the 6 items that are in the for action that HHFDC has requested an update status on. Would you be prepared to speak to those items today? I'm not sure if you've seen the for action, I guess. So the first one, for example, is a timeline for ground lease approval and recordation.
Yeah, so the ground lease is still being negotiated. We don't think that's going to be a long lead item. I think right now we're negotiating the disposition development agreement, which addresses phase 1A. As staff mentioned, this is a 4-phase development, and phase 1A, each phase is dependent on an independent contract, and right now we're negotiating that DDA with HPHA. The ground lease will be a part of that document set. But to answer your
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, to answer your question, we anticipate having that ground lease done well before closing.
Okay, so it's mentioned that you need to get a final subdivision approval before you can consummate the lease itself. So
that's correct.
When you're anticipating final subdivision approval?
Correct. So the subdivision is in process. We've received tentative approval. As you know, a tentative map transpires into a final map through the engineering process, which will generate a tax map key. Right now, we don't have a tax map key specifically for phase 1A. We only have the one tax map key you see that you referenced in the agenda. So the ground lease can be negotiated. It just can't be executed and recorded until the subdivision is approved, which generates the tax map key that goes into the ground lease.
So you don't really have a specific time to complete that because it's out of your control, basically.
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, it's the engineering process is in our control. The approval process is not. But right now, I think we're given a tentative date of Q1 of 2024 to receive final subdivision. And insofar that we're negotiating the ground lease simultaneously, it should be just a matter of putting in those tax map keys into the ground lease that we've negotiated.
Okay. Going to the second item, which is an updated construction budget. I took note of the fact in the for action that you would be seeking or needing an additional $23 million of financing to address budget shortfalls, and there was an exhibit C, which I honestly can't tell you I fully understood, but I have concern that you do not have any construction bids, I guess my basic concern is at this time, you know how much this project's gonna cost to build? Really the question.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's a fair question. We have an estimate. I think, our total development cost right now is just shy of 170 million. I'll tell you what you already know in that, prices have increased quite a bit since we undertook this project. And as have materials and interest rates. So all that has kind of combined into increasing quite a bit the construction or total development costs for this project. So I think our last submittal as far as construction budget was about 167 million. And I think that's where the gap and the additional financing we're looking for is generated from.
So who prepared that estimate? Let me ask.
The contract, well, we prepared it and we received pricing from a local contractor based in Honolulu.
And would that be the same for the $23 million shortfall? Is that through a contractor's review of your plan set?
Correct. And as a caveat, we're still in plan. We don't have 100% plans yet. So these are based on what we think are going to be approved by DPP as 100% plans or the permit set, if you will. I wouldn't say all of that 23 million is necessarily attached to cost increases on the construction side, because again, we've had increases in interest rates and other areas of our assumptions that have impacted the increase.
You mentioned, my next question, you mentioned that you would seek $23 million of additional financing from HHFDC. If that financing or those resources are not available for this project, what's your contingency plan?
I'm sorry, Chair, the last sentence cut out.
I'm sorry. If in your letter, you mentioned requesting at some point an additional $23 million of financing for the project through HHFDC. If those resources are not available because we do not have an unlimited supply of financing that we can make available, what would be your contingency plan?
Sure. It's a big sum. So, we're kind of professionals in the space of creating these capital and finance stacks to be able to do these projects. All of these projects require multiple sources. When I say these projects, I'm talking about affordable housing projects, that's kind of our exclusive product, which is all we do as our mission and a nonprofit is build affordable housing. Every single one of these projects requires a capital stack from multiple sources. To answer your question, at 23 million, that will be a very challenging hurdle to get over if we don't receive additional funding. I don't have a contingency plan as of today. I think while we could potentially get other irons in the fire, I think to raise an additional $23 million would be extremely challenging outside of HHFDC.
You be prepared to give the board a thorough progress update in December?
Yes, I think it's a fair ask, and I think it's very reasonable for us to be able to provide a more detailed update. I think by December we'll have much more clarity on our building plans, which means we could probably get much better pricing, as well as kind of getting a good sense as to when we can close. I think all that by the end of the year is going to be firmed up. So we feel comfortable that December is a good timeline to provide kind of the whole broad spectrum of detailed explanation as to when we get to closing and what that's going to look like.
Anyone else have questions from the board? Okay, if not, I'm done. So I will call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, if not, the motion carries. We will go on to item 3N of the agenda, which is to approve an extension to the rental housing revolving fund letter of intent for the Hawaii Public Housing Authority School Street redevelopment phase 1A project located in Honolulu, Oahu, TNK number 1-6-009-003 pursuant to legislative appropriation under Act 88 session laws of Hawaii 2021. Is there a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there anyone from the public wishing to give testimony on this agenda item? Hearing none. David, last one.
Thank you, Chair. Again, this is for the HPHA School Street Redevelopment Phase 1A project located in Honolulu. Same project as the previous for action. The project was legislatively appropriated in RHRF dollar amount of $40 million under Part 5 of the capital improvements provisions of Act 88 session laws of Hawaii 2021. Pursuant to the act, the $40 million in general obligation funds were to be deposited to the HHFDC rental housing revolving fund for fiscal year 2021 to 2022 for HPHA School Street redevelopment phase 1A project. The funds were contingent at that time in the bill on the start of construction no later than August 30th, 2022. However, the act further states that construction commencement date may be extended with the approval of the Hawaii Housing Finance and Development Corporation's Board of Directors and the Governor. On November 30th, 2021, the awardee executed their RHRF letter of intent outlining the terms and conditions of the loan and the award. On June 29th, 2022, the HHFDC Board of Directors approved an extension to the letter of intent from August 30th, 2022 to August 31st, 2023. And on June 14th, 2023, the awardee submitted a request to extend the RHRF letter of intent closing deadline. Again, we've run through the questions and the timeline with the project. Again, hopefully the project can secure its awards and requisite items to begin closing, and hopefully anticipated completion would be in Q2 2026. The staff has reviewed the request and is recommending that the Board of Directors approve the following, extending the RHRF letter of intent dated November 26, 2021 deadline for the HPHA School Street redevelopment phase 1A project, extending the start of construction date subject to the requirements as set forth in the for action dated October 14th, 2021. Again, extending the commencement of construction deadline as stipulated by Act 8 of Session Laws 8 2021 to May 5th, 2024 to coincide with the deadline imposed by the Honolulu City Council for the 201H exemptions approved for the project. We will also requesting the Board of Directors approve the requirement for the project to return to the board with a formal update on the progress of the project at the Board of Directors meeting on December 14th, 2023. And to authorize the Executive Director to undertake all tasks necessary to effectuate the purposes of this for action.
Directors, any questions for staff or for the developer? If not, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you very much. Let's go on to
Thank you.
section 4 of our agenda. This is a report of the executive.
Thank you, Chair. My report is before you in your packet. So a few items to note. With respect to the cooperative agreement between HHFDC and the city, again, this is an agreement that sets forth the terms, a private activity bond allocation between the city and county of Honolulu and HHFDC in relation to House Bill 923. We have had several meetings with the city since last month. We are getting closer to an agreement, and we hope to bring the agreement to the board next month for approval, along with the final 4% awards for this funding round. For Waiahole, as was reported last month, we revised our offer to residential lessees to 3.3 times current rent. That was favorably received by the majority of lessees. And under those terms, it is not believed that a rent subsidy program is necessary.
No longer necessary.
No longer necessary.
Oh, yes.
For the agricultural lessees, there is a group that has requested mediation, so Chris and his team are scheduling mediation for those agricultural lessees. More details can be found in the planning branch report, which is part of my report. And if you look at that, you see that the planning branch report has been revised to provide more, I would say, narrative information. So you'll find that, I think, much more informative. And so that's all I had to report. Any questions that you have for myself?
Questions? No, thank you, Dean. Thank you very much. So at this point, I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn.
So
Do I have a second?
second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Aye.
Opposed? I don't think so. Motion carries. Right.